All right, we are live on the air, and I am here with Sandra Dee Robinson, and I'm excited that you are here watching us today. My name is Lisa Larter, and this webinar is for members of the Pilot to Profit Success System. Every other month, I try to bring a guest expert to you to help you understand one element of how to market your business better. And the timing of this interview is actually really good because social media marketing world just wrapped up, and the buzz from social media marketing world this year is that 2016 is the year of the live stream. And live stream is just really a fancy word for doing video live. I mean, what we're doing right now, we're using a Google Hangout and we are streaming live. And when we're done, this will be a video that people get to watch. So I'm thrilled that Sandra is here with us today. So you may or you may not know who Sandra is. And she may look a little familiar to you for some reason. You might be like, where do I know her from? So I love that I get to introduce her. And one of the benefits, I'm going to say, of getting out of your home, getting out of your business and going to events and meeting and connecting with people and networking is sometimes you get to meet some really cool people. And then those cool people become your friends. So Sandra started acting. She became an actress at the age of 17. And she has been on so much freaking TV, I have to read the list because there's no way I can remember. So she had major roles on Another World, Sunset Beach, Bold and the Beautiful, General Hospital, Days of Our Lives, The Bay, and she's guest starred on a lot of shows, films that you've heard of like CSI Miami, Criminal Minds, 2.5 Men. Like I could go on and on and on. So who better to talk to us about this topic than a woman who has literally grown up in front of the camera? She's the founder and CEO of Charisma on Camera. She is the author of a new book called Impact: Secrets to Powerful Personal Presence. And she is a highly sought after coach, consultant, speaker, strategist, and all around amazing, amazing person. So Sandra, thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, I'm excited. I'm excited to be here. And like listening to you rattle off all of those things, all the shows, I was like, wow, that's more soap operas than are even on air at this point, you know? But it's true. Yeah. I was very blessed to work in a very competitive industry, and thank God for the people that attend restaurants. I never had to wait tables because I would never have been able to do it well. So I think that was that. I had nothing to fall back on, so I just had to make it work, you know? So yeah.
Well, I think it's fantastic, and I think it's great that you're here, and I think it's great that you are taking what is your gift and you're sharing it with the world. And what I love about you is I love how real and approachable and helpful you are to everyone that you come in touch with.
Well, thank you. And I think it's important to realize that, you know, the gift, it's interesting the way you put that, the gift that I share really comes from the struggle that I had more so than the fact that I was a working actor. The working actor and the performance stuff that I learned when I learned how to host television shows and things like that, those are skills. It's performance stuff that I will share with people when I work with them. I tend to work with really brilliant people that have with Charisma on Camera and with Horsepower Consulting, I work with really smart, brilliant people. They can be educated, they can be successful. I love to be intimidated by my private clients when I sign them up. You know, when I get somebody that I think is just so accomplished and so smart that they scare the heck out of me, I know I'm gonna have a good challenge on my hands, and it's usually fun. But there's something that stops them from moving forward. A lot of times it's very much like the fear of public speaking. It's a fear of looking foolish. It's a feeling of being like a fish out of water when a red light goes on a camera. There's a lot of things that will keep people from taking that next step, even though they know that live streaming and video is not really an option if you have a business anymore. And you have to do it, and you might as well look like a professional when you do it. So the performance skills are what they come to me for, and that's what I sought as well. But what I learned is that charisma, that powerful presence really has to come from inside. And so if I can tell you, part of the reason that I teach what I teach is because I hid behind those characters. I actually started acting when I was 11 in my hometown. And so my first shoots were 11, 12, my commercials, my first regional commercial was 13. And for me, it was a way to validate me being on the earth. I had some negative stuff spoken over me that basically told me that life would have been better if I hadn't been born. And that was my mom. And my dad was awesome. I don't think he ever knew that she was saying those things to me. But yeah, the good thing is self-esteem had nowhere to go but up from there. So it became a real problem, though. It pushed me into acting, and I really dove into it. And I think this is very common for a lot of performers and artists, that the bad thing came about when I couldn't have a conversation with fans, because I didn't have that sense of knowing what my strengths are, who I was. So I came from a really broken place, and most of the people that I work with and most of the folks watching right now are not in that, not quite as broken, I would think, as I was. But it's good because I can kind of identify where people are in any level of that discomfort, you know, and I can help them. So, and I love to help them, because when people get comfortable in building that relationship through the camera lens, and it changes the way you network, it changes the way you conference. Like you said, getting out, going to things. I discovered that the work that I did to help myself on camera actually changed the way I walked into a room. So that happens a lot.
So a couple things I want to ask you about. And before I ask you those questions, I got so excited introducing you that I forgot to tell people, if you want to open up the chat box on a separate page, you can go to lisalarter.com/chat. I will be monitoring any questions that come in for Sandra on the chat box. So sorry, I forgot to say that at the beginning. Sandra, talking about being comfortable in front of the camera. The world changed back in, when was it? Probably 2007. And I remember Gary Vaynerchuk with a flip cam doing his wine library videos and thinking, wow, you know, I want to do that. And I remember shooting my very first video. And when I watched the replay, I noticed that one side of my mouth didn't move the same as the other, because I had jaw surgery in my 20s, and I had no idea that sometimes when I talk, my mouth doesn't move equally. And I remember being horrified when I saw that on camera.
That's what we do. Yeah.
So, yeah. So how do you help people overcome that fear of, I mean, you're beautiful and you're poised and you speak well, you're articulate. How do you help everyday people just get okay with being them on camera?
Well, first off, I have to let you know that the thing that you're talking about, when you watch yourself back and you go, oh my gosh, I'm horrified. We all have that experience. I had it. I wanted to crawl under a rock. And unfortunately, by the time I started watching myself, I had already been hired as an actress on a national show. So I couldn't crawl under a rock. So I was really mortified to even go into work the next day. But you don't get better at being on camera unless you watch yourself. So I had a coach years ago that forced me to record and watch, record and watch. And if you do it with somebody like I did in that case, or like I do with my clients, you do it with somebody that points out the good things. Eventually you'll get away from that self-deprecation that we do initially. And I had to name this because I've got very successful people, smart people, confident people that can't watch themselves. And we see things that other people don't see. I've had beautiful women look at the replay of them on camera and say, oh my God, look at my nose, I'm so embarrassed. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, we see things, or we think we blink too much, and very rarely is that the case. But there's a tunnel, I call it a tunnel of self-deprecation. And if you watch yourself and you have somebody that is the things that you're doing on camera, you'll come out the other side. And the good thing about coming out the other end of the tunnel is you don't usually turn around and go back. So once you get to the point where you can watch yourself, which I'm sure you're at now, Lisa, and you can go, hey, I look pretty cute there, or I did good, that was funny, I liked it. You know, when you start to like seeing yourself, then there's a whole new world that opens up.
Yeah, but you know, that itty bitty shitty committee still shows up. And I've been doing video for almost 10 years. So even today, you know, I'm looking at myself in the camera and you're like, oh, you have great lighting. I'm like, oh my God, I have this glare and my hair and my face looks really fat and my lips are too red. And so it's like, sometimes you watch a video and you think you look good. And then 5 minutes later, you're criticizing yourself. So do you ever really get to a place where you're like, oh yeah, I'm actually doing a pretty good job at this?
You do. And what's interesting is you change the focus. So there are, like, one of the main things that I tell people, if they have that fear that shoot a video, for instance, and they say, I can't remember my points. I can remember them when I'm practicing the night before, the morning of, and then once I sit down and the red light goes, part of that. And it's the same thing with stage fright. You have that same feeling when you're out in front of a live audience. I struggle to help people understand that once your thoughts are on you, it's okay to look at a video that you're recording. Like now, I check down, I make sure that my lights, I can still be seen because light changes. I can make sure that I'm still framed properly. But I try not to spend much time looking at myself. Otherwise, I'll get caught in that, you know, critical eye and wish I had other lighting or did different lipstick or something like that. And that's really not where my mind should be. If I'm on camera or if I'm on stage and I'm delivering a message, obviously I think it's an important enough message that somebody out there has to hear it. Mm-hmm. So discomfort to thinking, okay, let's put my thoughts where they should be. What am I here to give? Who am I serving? Because if your thoughts are like your body, they're either going to be on you, right, which isn't serving anybody, or they're going to be on the message that you're delivering. And if you're really clear who your audience is and who the people are that you're there to help and who your product is designed for and what it's going to do in that person's life that purchases it, or the service, you know, what's going to happen to their life. If you really concentrate on that, you'll find you're thinking a lot less about the lighting, your hair, the 5 pounds you should have lost, you know, all those things. It's okay to look down and check. Like I said, look down, check, make sure that you're still in focus, still moving, you're not frozen, things like that. But really just try so hard to keep your mind on what you're delivering.
So in your book, you talk about powerful personal presence. Mm-hmm. Can you tell me a little bit about how people can develop a powerful personal presence when they are doing video? Like, what advice would you give people who are not comfortable on camera to be able to do that?
You froze on me a little bit. Ask me that question one more time.
So when you talk about powerful personal presence, mm-hmm. what would you advise people to do in order to establish that when they're starting out using video? Did I freeze again?
It froze up again, but I think I got the question between the beginning and the end of the last two times you asked. I think I got it. Okay. You know, powerful personal presence, some people call it charisma. But to me, powerful presence is something that, like I said, it comes from deep within. So one of the ways that I work on kind of harvesting that or bringing that to the forefront of somebody's presence is to really spend time working on a foundation. Before I ever start to interview them in a private session or put them through their paces of working the camera, I really make sure that they go back through and they do kind of I want to say self-analysis, but kind of a check on what their strengths actually are. What are the things that they feel the best when they're doing? It can be a task, it can be outside. What are your passions? I want to see somebody that isn't just a walking, talking, pretty head. I want to see somebody, and we all want to see somebody that's real. So sharing your passion, tapping into the things that excite you. And if your business excites you, awesome. If your business, and I talk with people that have to use video for their business, and sometimes they can be burned out on their business. Every entrepreneur gets a day like that, right? Sometimes they have a business that they've inherited, and maybe their heart isn't 100% there, but right now they've got to support it, and that's what they've got to do. Everybody has a different level of passion for what they're doing. If you have a day when you're not feeling super up and crazy about what you're doing, let's just be honest, have some passion in your life that you share. Be able to tell people through stories what you're all about. And when you get that sense of expression and you have that sense of deep-rooted, hey, this is what we're all about. I worked with a couple this morning, a new client of mine, but it's a couple. And they have this great dynamic. They're married and they have this great dynamic back and forth. And I said, that's what I want to see. It's not just giving the man this topic and giving the woman this topic. They can have that so they know what they speak on. That's just logistics and performance. But I really want to see why they get along, why they aggravate each other, why they love that they aggravate each other. You know, I want to see that relationship to each other and to their life. So I want to see the relationship you have with yourself and with your life. And when you're able to be a little vulnerable, it's a little bit of a risk. You know, it's like sharing with somebody your life story a little bit and sharing who you are. There may be people that judge you. There may be people that are put off by the fact that, hey, I'm an environmentalist. Happy Earth Day. That's really important to me. You know, I think that everybody should be recycling, and I don't believe in wearing fur. And if somebody has a problem with that, then they'll tune me out. That's okay. They're not my people. So, right?
Yeah, true.
You do a video and you share you so that you attract people into your business that you like working with.
Right, but you are confident enough to say all of that, and you have been in front of the camera for a long time. If you're somebody who is brand new and just starting, like, what's your first step? How do you find that place of being assured that what you're doing is okay?
There is, first of all, it's okay to look at people whose style you like, but it's one thing to respect them, take some notes on people. And I always say when I start working with somebody, this is a secret. Now I'm going to give you one of my secrets. I tell them, you know, before we start working together, do me a favor, tell me about some people that are television personalities, not actors, but people who with their own personalities carry a show or a segment of a show, talk show, reality show, whatever. Like, give me some people that you really just are fascinated to watch. You're really drawn to them. And so people will come back with various things. And a lot of times there are pieces of them that are like Ellen, but they're not showing that. You know, maybe they have this great sense of humor, but they're trying to perform as somebody who's very, you know, stoic. I'm like, sweetie, just be your goofy self. That's who you are when people meet you. That's who your friends love. So be that person. So it's okay to look at people and see styles that you like, but don't do what I did. My first couple of videos, I even designed a set around somebody that was really, really rocking it in video back in the day, right? And she looked a little like me, and I thought, all right, I'm gonna do this. So I actually set the setup to look kind of like hers. I stood like her. I see, we've all done this. And it was the worst conversion video that I ever did. Like, no one liked it because I wasn't being me. I was trying really hard to be somebody else because I thought that's what people wanted. And the good thing is we just want to see you on your best day. So one thing that you can do, when you talk about people that have charisma, there's a few things that people always say. They tend to be more confident. So do something, remember something, do some meditation, get a workout in the morning, but do something that builds your confidence. If it's visualizing something that you've done with your product or your service that really made somebody happy, go back and revisit that moment that you delivered it to them and they said thank you. Really put yourself with the good juices flowing. So whatever it takes, you prime yourself for happiness. There's a whole movement right now, and you talked about live streaming a little over a year ago. I did a 24-hour live stream for the International Day of Happiness. So I interviewed positive psychologists, and it was all about happiness and joy. And I was after 24 hours of being on camera, I was so full of energy. We went out to dinner and celebrated, and I called my husband and said, we're done, we're going out to dinner. And he's like, what is wrong with you? Go to bed. Right? But why am I saying this? Because that positivity, that happiness that you can tap into when you're in your good mood, that elevates everybody.
You're frozen.
On who it is you're talking to and what you're delivering, that's huge. So the more you practice and you start from this point, the easier it's going to be. And be gentle to yourself when you watch it back. It helps if you have a coach that's a cheerleader for you, but if you're watching back on your own, be your own cheerleader. Recognize that this is a learning process, and be gentle.
What about preparation? So sometimes I have a really bad habit of what I call pulling shit out of my ass.
Ooh,
And so
painful.
So because I am comfortable talking on camera and I'm comfortable doing videos, sometimes I will do videos and then after I will feel really badly about the video because I feel like I didn't prepare enough. Can you talk to me a little bit about what is the balance between preparing and still keeping your personality and being so over prepared that it looks like you're scripted?
I'm so glad that you brought this up because it's the biggest mistake that I see people do. One of the biggest is either they don't prepare and they're all over the place, or they over prepare and they memorize everything. Now, the problem with memorization, and you're talking to a girl that in soaps, when I was a lead character on these shows, I would learn 30 to 35 pages of dialogue a day. I memorized it. I got really good at it. I will not memorize a video script. There's no way, because even I can't pull that off as being as authentic and in the moment as it is if I just give myself bullet points. Because what happens when you memorize, you can't help it. You go over it, you try to memorize and memorize. You not only memorize the words, you memorize the way that you are saying it. So it comes across as not being genuine. It's a very disingenuous thing.
Like when people are reading a teleprompter and you can totally tell they're reading a teleprompter and it just sounds so
stale.
Bad.
Yes, it sounds stale. It doesn't sound like they're present because they're really not. And that's another good thing to bring up, just as an aside. If you think, oh, no worries, I'm just going to do it, use a teleprompter. It's not the end all be all. There are, and that's it, maybe towards the end, if we want to get back into it, we can. There's a lot of bad traps that you can get into with a teleprompter. It's not all wine and roses. There are challenges with it, and you can look really bad using a teleprompter. So I work with people on that, and once you have the skill, it's great, and it can save you if you're doing a long, extended training video for your business. But as a first time out, I wouldn't rely on it. So what you want to do is take your message, get familiar with it, bullet point the most important things. And I'm a big fan of helping my clients that are experts cheat. I'm a big fan of cheating because you're not going out there to be the world's best Emmy-winning host. You're going out to be you on your best day and representing your product or your service, and you want to do it in a really genuine way. So ways you can cheat. Don't think that you have to get through all of your bullet points in one take. There are things called little editing programs. You can do a flash in between. So do a point, stop. Start the video up again. If you're doing a live stream or something where you can't stop the video and take a look at what your notes are, then find a place that you can use your notes. I have a good example is I have a client that went through a period where she was really just going through some stuff in her own life, and she had a lot of media, big media stuff, like nationwide network shows that she was guesting on. And she started to freak out that she was going to forget things. She just had something going on in her personal life. Well, she was a social media expert. So I said, honey, put your bullet points on your iPad and hold your iPad. So then when she started to talk about Facebook, she could look like she was looking at Facebook, and she's really picking up her notes. Mm-hmm. It was totally appropriate. So there's always ways that I can help people hide things and make it as fluid as possible for them so that they can, so they can reach their bullet points. It doesn't require a lot of mental pressure that way. Everybody that's watching, including, you, Lisa, you can rattle off 1,000 things about different topics because it's what you do. We're experts in what we do. So all you have to do is have a little map as to where you're going and what you need to accomplish, and find ways to cheat that you can have that information in front of you. And
sorry, go ahead. I cut you off.
No, I just said then just go for it.
Yeah, one of the things that I do sometimes if I'm doing a live stream like this is I will, like right now as an example, I have my laptop open to the right so that I can pay attention to what's going on on the laptop, and I have my notes on the laptop. And sometimes what I do is I will actually take a Post-it note with my bullet points and I'll stick it right on my computer screen.
Yeah. If I'm using my video camera, I'll take a sticky note. And here's the clue to that. The closer you are, this is a little technical tip, but the closer you are to your camera, the closer your notes or your cheat sheet has to be to the camera lens. So if I'm this close to a webcam, it's better to have my notes on, you know, as close to the camera as I can, because if I have it down here, my eyes are going to go down that direction and then they're going to come back up. So you want to keep that from looking weird. So you want to have it as close to the camera as you can.
Yeah, I love the iPad example, or even, you know, on your mobile device, if you're looking at something, because it does keep your eyelid up high.
Yeah.
I know that
you don't want to do that.
You don't want to do what? Yeah, like I am looking down at the computer because I'm totally looking away. Now, if I was shooting a video, I wouldn't do that. But because I'm talking to you, I've got the tool here.
You're in your office. Real. Yeah.
Exactly. Another thing that I have done before is if I'm shooting a video, not a live stream, and I'm using like a video camera, is sometimes I'll have a flip chart right beside the camera. And the flip chart, I can write big things like my bullet points on the flip chart, which makes it easy.
So it's like it's just like if you're shooting like Saturday Night Live, you know, they'll pan over, you'll see them with the big flip charts and the handwritten stuff. And yeah, but the funny thing is Saturday Night Live is known for being really, really obvious of the fact that they're looking over here and reading their lines. You know, you don't really want to look like Saturday Night Live skit when you're doing your video.
Yeah.
So again, just try to keep it as close to the camera as you can, and don't spend a lot of time with it's okay to go grab something and bring it back. When you get really used to it, you can actually start to answer your questions and look at the next, you know, you can answer away from the camera, glance at the next thing, and then come back. But that takes some time and some training or just some experience until you're able to do that. You know,
so what about makeup? Okay, because I'm looking at myself today and I'm looking like, I don't really think I look like this, but because of the way the lighting is coming in and all of that, can you talk a little bit about how should you set things up in terms of makeup and lighting so that you do feel good about how you look on camera?
Well, that's important. It's really important to feel good about how you look, because if you don't like how you look, you're not going to want to share the video. So, and you're not really going to want to do more if you can't figure out how to make yourself look good. Let's just be real. So the first thing to remember is you always want to face the brightest source of light. So you have the window in front of you, right? So you definitely want to face that brightest source of light. This is great even if you're doing a conference and somebody goes, hey, let's take a picture. Don't take a picture with a light that is right over your head, because that's going to make everybody look bad. Mm-hmm. And that's how so many of those conference photos look, you know, because it's got these shadows, everybody's got sallow eyes, and it's not flattering for anybody. If you were to just take that group and turn towards whatever the brightest source of light is, if it's in the lobby, if it's at a window, just get everybody lined up there. Everybody will look a lot better. So what I did right now, these are great little things for webinars and things. It's a tiny little, like tiny. See how tiny that is?
Oh, wow. Compared to like my big friggin' light that I just turned on because I can't stand the shadows under my eyes anymore.
Well, this little sucker is right next to my computer. He's really bright though. He's actually he's brighter than I expected when I ordered him.
Do you have one or two?
I have one, and then I have the window. So if I took this away, you want to try to light, the idea is you want to light as evenly as you can. There's a reason that soap opera people, everybody thinks that we're so beautiful. It's makeup and lighting. They spend a lot of time doing permanent lighting on these sets, and then they tweak them for every individual that's there. Imagine if we could do that in real life, we would all look gorgeous, right? So if I take this away, see all the shadows? Mm-hmm. And you can't, the idea, we have to communicate. Humans really seek to communicate first and foremost with our energy and eye to eye. So if you can't see my eyes very well, then I'm not well lit, or you see one, you don't see the other, it's not really serving you to build a relationship through that lens. So if you can see both of my eyeballs and I can see both of yours, we're already building a relationship a little bit more solid than we would be if we were challenged.
But I feel like my light is too bright, too much.
It is. And there's a combination of, and you don't know, I mean, I've done the same thing. I've set up and I've done a Google Hangout with somebody, and all of a sudden I realize that at that time of day, there's a ton of light coming through the window. So there's really not a lot, unless you have a blind, there's not a lot that you can do in that situation. You've got a light jacket on, a light shirt, your hair is light, your cabinets and everything is white and light and reflective. So you look very angelic.
Who would know what a devil I really am?
Just the red chair is a little indication that there's something going on there. You know?
Yeah, yeah.
But, the only way that you could combat that is to do something to block the light and then take an auxiliary light like one that I have, or even a house lamp. You don't have to buy this lamp. This little tiny thing was on Amazon, 2 of them for $17 or something. So it doesn't take a lot of money. You just really want to have light on your face and as evenly as you can. And then framing is important too. Now, you sat back a little bit, but you were framed perfectly, and you want your eyeballs to be at the lower portion of the top third of the frame.
Yes.
Because when you learn about art in school, you learn that when we look at a painting, the human eye naturally goes to that place on a square. It naturally goes to that place in a painting. So it's the same thing with the video screen. Our eye naturally falls in the lower portion of that top third. So put your eyes there.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier. If I was framed, and I see people that do this, if I was framed like this.
Yeah, you look really short.
There's all this real estate up here, and it's wasted. So it's just easier to connect with somebody when you're up close and I always say when you're shooting a video, people say, do I have to spend money? Do I have to get a professional? If you're trying to attract an affluent client, this is the bottom line for this. If you want people, they're going to be spending thousands of dollars with you. You really are attracting. You want to go for an affluent client, and who wouldn't? They will not notice. An affluent client will not notice if you have a quality video. They'll notice if you don't. And they may not.
Say that again.
An affluent client, potential client, won't notice if you have a quality video because it'll just fit in with the norm for how they live their life. It's quality. But they will notice if there's something that gives it away that it's not. And whether they will actually say, oh, they didn't spend money on that video, or they'll just go, I can't hear her very well. The sound will be bad. Or it's framed incorrectly and it looks really amateur. Or I can't see her face. So they'll just instinctively, maybe subconsciously, make an effort to go, not my person.
Right. Something about the level of quality that is put into what they've done just won't resonate.
Yeah. So the things that we talked about here when you're shooting a video can make even a simple iPhone video or an iPad video. This is a really good camera in these things.
Mm-hmm.
These can look good. They have to be stabilized. So if you're going to be shooting, if this is the only, if these devices are the only things that you have to shoot with, don't think that you can hold them steady, right? Find something. There you go. Yep. That is worth its weight in gold, because even with the stabilization that you can have in certain programs when you shoot it, it's still going to look amateur. It's going to have movement. We breathe. And so it's going to move. What I did, I try to practice because of my background in television. I would actually deliberately move a camera. If somebody asked me to do a testimonial and I don't have, I'll deliberately make a motion with it. It's kind of old MTV, shooting kind of stuff, but that's a style and many people don't know how to make that work. So just stabilize it and then be cautious of the sound. Make sure we can hear you. Shooting outside with an iPhone, for instance, really challenging because the microphone is so strong, it picks up everything. Picks up everything. You can have an auxiliary microphone that you can put into these things. They even have, it's very cool. They even have lenses that you can put on your smartphones.
I know, isn't that crazy?
It's awesome. Yeah, it's really cool. So here I am with my fancy, camera that we bought. It's got all this stuff on it. We spent thousands of dollars on it, and somebody could get a lens for an iPhone, and it looks just the same, if not better. So, yeah, you don't have to spend a lot, but do understand what makes videos look bad, sound bad, and just try to avoid that.
So there's a lot of people out there that are teaching people how to create videos, how to do video marketing, etc. What makes you different? Why do people choose you? What do you believe is your sweet spot or the secret sauce that Sandra offers to people who want to use video marketing as part of the mix, but really need a coach to help them?
I'm glad you asked that, because I don't often get a chance to put that into words, but I think what you can have a technically well-shot video. You can go to coaches that will give you the performance stuff. show you how to stand. And I've done this. I mean, I spent 7 years in 13 different coaches, learning various aspects of performance, getting my vocals right, losing my accent, learning how to stand, how to address the camera with my chin down and my eyes open, and all these things that make me look like I know what I'm doing. But I couldn't get anybody to move into action, because the thing that was missing is I wasn't connected to me. So when we talked about that powerful presence and owning everything that you are, knowing your story, and maybe you don't tell your whole story every time, but you have the knowledge of what makes you strong and what your story is all about, and it runs in your thought process like an app running in the back of your computer that just makes it more powerful. So I really work with people on the other portion of how I learned to do what I do. I kept my performance skills over here, and I kept my self-improvement and my learning about myself and how I work over here. It was by accident one day that they got thrown together when I was on set. And I thought something was going on as a rehearsal. I didn't know they were still shooting. And I started kind of laughing and joking with somebody on set, and I just became myself. I wasn't performing and presenting and worried about the words anymore. I was just being me. And trusting that those things can go together, at that moment, that was when I made a huge breakthrough. I realized you can have fun doing this. I don't show you just how to shoot. I mean, obviously the technical stuff and knowledge of what looks good and what doesn't, that's helpful. Knowing how to stand, what your body language is sharing, getting the message right, all that stuff, you can get that from a lot of people. But what I work on is I really help people understand what part of their story they need to be sharing, how they can do that with their body and their energy and actually enjoy this process. Because if you're not enjoying being on camera, you're not going to be able to move people to action. You're not going to build that relationship. This is all about relationship building. And people think it's about performing on camera. It's not. That's not what I teach. I teach relationship building. You just have to do it through a camera lens. So
how important is storytelling when you do this stuff?
Huge, huge. I work with people. Here's what I suggest. I have them come up with the things that they want people to know most about them and their business. And then with each one of those points that they feel are so valuable for people to know, we attach stories to them. Personal stories are always easier to tell. They help us feel more connected. If you think about it, the first people that ever told you a story in your life was who?
Your parents.
Yeah. So it's human nature that we just connect with people when they tell us stories. There's a level of trust that just gets elevated a little bit. If I were to tell you statistics and facts about why you should do my program, okay. But if I give you statistics and facts, and then I tell you a story about what I went through, or even what one of my clients went through and the transformation that I witnessed, then, and how their life changed, that's a story. You're more likely going to remember that story and be moved emotionally by that story. People make decisions to purchase, no matter what it is, from the emotional part of the brain. It comes from the amygdala, not the corpus callosum that we're so proud of as human beings. It's not cognitive thought that actually pulls that trigger for somebody to say, yes, here's my Visa card. I want to work with you. It's an emotional connection. And that's what stories do.
Yeah. It's interesting that you say that, because a lot of the clients that work with me, they say this one thing that I hear it over and over and over and over again. And it is, I feel like you get me. It's never, I want what you know. It's, I feel like you get me.
Yeah. It's the number one thing that people want when they click on your video. If somebody, think about, you do the same thing. If you're looking for a service provider, and you go to their website, you're going to click on the video. You want three things. You want to know that they get you, that they know and they understand where you're coming from. They're your people, right? And you want to know that they have the knowledge and the experience to help you. That can come from a story they tell. Their accolades and the awards and things like that, that can be on the page somewhere, but it really comes from that sense of the stories they tell, why they do what they do, and give a little bit of their background so you know they had the experience and the knowledge to help you. And then the third thing you want is trust. You want to be able to trust them. If you do the first two, the third one's going to be easy.
Mm-hmm. So tell me what you see as the number one way people self-sabotage or diminish their power when it comes to doing video. The number one thing that really gets in the way of their success.
Gosh, so many things just popped up in my head, like, say this, say this, say this. I think one of the most detrimental things is we compare ourselves. We compare our stories, mostly when it comes to comparing, I think the biggest problem is when we compare our stories. Like, we go and share that piece of ourselves. It takes a risk. There has to be a bit of vulnerability there, where I, for the longest time, would never have even thought of telling people that my mother said those horrible things about me. And there's still a part of me that goes, but you know, that turned out to be something that really helps people get, oh, wow. And I have had, almost every time I speak, I have somebody that will come up to me and say, I think we have the same family, you know, because those things make a big difference. And for the longest time, I didn't want to tell a story because I went to storytelling workshops and people would go around the room, and because I was so introverted and so shy and afraid to speak as myself, I would wait, I'd be the last one. So I'd let everybody else go. So I'm listening to these people that are like, well, I'm a health coach because I had an eating disorder and I got down to 75 pounds and I nearly died. I'm like, wow, that's an amazing story, right? And then they'd come to this next person and they would have just this equally like dramatic story, and that's why they do what they do. And I felt like everybody's story was so much better than mine that it got to me and I left the room. Truly, it's like the biggest mistake is that we don't have somebody help us pull our story out. You can't see it. You know, we've seen Les Brown so many times. I think we've seen him together, right, on stage. And he has this great phrase, is you can't see the picture if you're in the frame. That's why you have to work with somebody outside of you that can say, well, wait a minute, that part of your story you have to share. Because so often we hold on to it and we think, oh no, that doesn't matter. Why would anybody listen to me? That's not going to resonate with anybody. And sure enough, I had a coach that said, you need to say that thing about your mother and your struggles with self-esteem. I do? Can I just say that I was an actress and isn't that good enough? She's like, no. And if it wasn't for somebody else pulling that out of me, I would not share that. And it would miss the she gets me thing, right?
Yeah, it's so interesting. It's, you know, mine was dropping out of high school before I finished. I didn't tell people that for the longest time because I was embarrassed. I didn't have a high school diploma. And then when I started speaking about that on stage, people would come up after and they would tell me their stories of why they didn't finish school and how glad they were that I owned that and that I shared that as part of my journey. So I think you're right. I think we all have really, really, really big, juicy stories that can help other people, but we don't see them. We've got blinders on.
We do. And a lot of times, even if we see it and we think maybe I should tell that, you kind of have to have somebody next to you that's going to support you through that first initial time of doing it. The first time that I told the story about really how broken, how messed up I was, that I used to black out on stage. I remember, here I am, I'm on TV every single day in these people's homes. And I went to a charity event for a children's hospital. Who wouldn't want to help that? So I get up on stage with the rest of the cast, and I didn't know this, but one of the guys from the cast handed me the microphone. I didn't think that was going to happen. And I remember the microphone coming straight at me, and I don't remember anything else. I saw a video later where I spoke. I don't know what I said. I literally was so terrified that I blacked out the whole episode. I don't remember anything. So that's not being powerful in your presence, by the way. No. So there was an opportunity for me to make a difference in the world, and I don't think I did very much with it.
Well, you are now.
Yeah. And, you know, opening up the door for people to do the same thing in their life. And that's cool because there's a ripple effect. Every time that you step out and touch somebody like Lisa, when people come and go, thank you so much for sharing your story, maybe they'll share theirs. Maybe they'll create that same thing and empower other people. So just by you taking one step out and making a difference in one person's life with your story, you never know where that can go. So stop comparing you to other people. Let somebody work with you on that and pull out the little juicy nuggets that you already own. They're there for a reason. You're perfectly designed to make that impact in the world that you're designed to make. It's just sometimes we can't see the design because we're too close.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things that I've noticed is you are doing this live stream standing instead of talking.
Yeah.
Why?
Energy is always better when you're standing. So with my clients, I say, even if you're going to do a radio interview, do it walking around, do it standing, because your circulation is going, the oxygen is flowing through your body a little better. Even a professional, as soon as they would seat somebody that is a speaker, as soon as you seat that person, their energy drops. So if you want to keep that high energy thing going, and you do need a lot more energy when you're presenting on camera than you do if you're talking one-on-one. Now, Google Hangout's a little forgiving because it's so close and it's so intimate. But if you're actually shooting a video where I would just have to carry my audience for 5 minutes, I have to have a much higher level of energy. We're used to watching television, and there's an enormous amount of energy that goes into that. And the flash cuts that we're used to seeing when they edit, you watch a commercial and it edits about every second or two. That's insane. Mm-hmm. Our modern stimulation is, our need for stimulation of our brain is so high that we can't talk in a very conversational tone for very long. People will just tune out. Not that they mean to, we just do. So really doing anything you can to raise that energy. Seated, if you have to get away, if you have to sit for some reason, then kind of sit up tall. Really ground yourself into your tailbone. Seriously, do that old-fashioned thing where you're like, all right, imagine the string pulling from the top of your head, and be conscious of that. You breathe better that way.
Yeah, I have really bad conditions for today because it's ridiculously hot in here because of the sun, and this chair is really uncomfortable. So talk to me about your setup, because if you're standing, your computer's not down on a desk because you're not looking down at the camera. You're looking up at the camera.
I'm actually in my yoga room / library room. I think I was telling you, Lisa, before we came on, this house, we've moved to Austin, Texas, and we jokingly said we bought the barn and the house came with it. So we have great property. We have a little ranch here, a lot of wonderful things, but we don't have a studio in this house. So I'm still trying to figure out, until we build another building, it's on the project list, right? Until we build another building, when I have to do something like this, I have to kind of make my space work. So in this room, there's a little, I think there's one behind you too, like it's either a low filing cabinet that you have your and your ampersand on.
Yeah.
The little cabinet. So I have like a console, and then I have 2 filing boxes that are stacked up to make this the right height.
Awesome.
Nobody knows. See, that's the thing. It's like, I help my clients whenever they have to shoot video with a webcam, and I give them all kinds of ways. Nobody knows what's going on back behind the camera. I'll have people that take house lights and they take the lampshade off of it, just so they can light that side of their face. I mean, you make do with what you've got. As long as you know what you need to do, that you need to light your face, the camera should be always at eye level or slightly above. Mm-hmm. And the reason for that is if it's down below, you've seen people, and you'll see this all the time, the mistakes that people make. They don't know it's a mistake, and we don't actually know it's a mistake, but it makes sense once they say this. If the camera is below, and I'm going like, hang on, and I'm trying to make this work so that I can, okay. So I am now above the camera. I can't open my eyes all the way. So I'm kind of looking down my nose at you. My eyes aren't completely open. They're actually kind of shut because I'm looking down. If the camera is slightly above, my eyes naturally are wide open.
So my camera is below.
It's a little below, but
I can feel that when I go like that. Problem solved. I just got a new iMac. It's bigger than this one.
There you go.
It'll be taller.
Yeah.
Here, let's just play with something for a second. I'm going to take this little box that I have and lift my computer up just to see the difference.
Yeah. See, now you're
totally different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And remember, this is, I mean, it really gets down to sort of appealing to emotions and how we naturally read energy off one another. You're building a relationship. So if you're in a good mood, your eyes are open, you're available, you're well lit, it's a lot easier.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you learn the basics, it's a lot easier to build a relationship with somebody through the lens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me about your book.
My book talks about a lot of this stuff. Yeah, I wrote the book, Impact: Secrets to Powerful Personal Presence, for on camera and off. And so it's a lot of the stuff that we've been talking about. It's a lot of my journey and, you know, the experiences that I had and how I had to work through finding out who I was. So there's exercises in there to help you pull your story. I always think it's better to have somebody on the outside, but there's work that you can do initially. Kind of go back into your life and pull out the pieces of your life that were really significant to you for various reasons, and you'll start to see a theme. You know, I just spoke for the luxury division of Keller Williams Real Estate. It's an amazing company. And Gary Keller, the founder of that company, has a book called One. And he talks about, even in that book, he talks about a theme that goes through your life. This is huge because so often there's a theme of strength that goes through our lives, and then we start a company and we totally forget about what that is. A big thing that drives me, for instance, is creativity. And I got so into, I'm a business owner now. I'm going to do business things. And I sort of let that piece of me die. Mm-hmm. And I had somebody, you know, a coach say to me, well, what were you doing when you were 5 or 6 years old that made time stand still? And I asked that question a lot to people. And I started to cry because I was all about creativity. Everything, I looked at everything with a different perspective. I wanted to create with everything that I saw. And that's huge for what I do. And when I'm working with people, that's a big part that I can tap into to make my work stronger. And I had completely forgotten about it. So we think we know what our strengths are, but sometimes there are things that we totally have, you know, put aside, whether it's family obligations, time, being involved in a career that didn't allow us to do those things. But even when I speak, I'll ask people, you know, they'll just light up and they'll talk about singing or something. And I'll say, well, do you still sing? And they'll go, no. And you can instantly see that hole in their spirit, you know? And so I'll say, well, you know, start doing it and find ways that you can incorporate music in your message for your business. And just like that, everything will shift. So in the book, I talk about going through things like that, exercises like that. It's not a big book, but I realize that it's kind of like I teach. I do 90-minute sessions with people, but there's a hell of a lot in there. So, and you've got maybe 100 pages in this book, but there's a lot of stuff in there. I went back through it, and it's so often, you know, we write our books, we sell them, and then we very rarely go back and look at them, right?
Well, yeah, it's true.
No, I mean, unless we're going to harvest something from it. And as I go back through it, I'm like, holy cow, there's a lot of stuff in here. But it's about harvesting your strengths, harvesting your story, being able to be confident on camera. Little tricks and tips for being on camera, this performance related, they're in there too. Mm-hmm. And about building and choosing a videographer. If you are dealing with an affluent clientele, again, you want to have a professional video in a few circumstances. Your first touch point with an affluent customer should be a professional video. And I'll show you how to choose that person, because so often people make mistakes in their choices with that. And I know how important it is, because like we're talking about energy affecting us. If you have somebody that's shooting a video of you and the energy isn't correct between the two of you, that's affecting how you are.
Interesting.
Anybody that's in that room is affecting how you are. I adore my husband, but my husband is a director. He's a stunt man, stunt coordinator. He's a director. So when he'll set up my stage for me. He'll set up my lights and everything and look great. And then I'll go, okay, get out. I can't have him in the room because his energy, it makes me very self-conscious. Mm-hmm. I love him to death, but I can't have him in the room. So there's little guidelines and things that I go through in there that will help you kind of create the set and the environment that's going to make you feel awesome.
That's great. It's funny. I'm the same way. When I'm doing Periscope or Facebook Live, I always want Paul out of the house, like go someplace else or out of the office, because I feel self-conscious. And so when I feel self-conscious, I can't be my crazy self, right?
You can't be in the moment. You can't be the 100% because you feel that little like check in your spirit, like, what are they thinking, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's little things like that. It's not bad. I mean, I'm sure he understands at this point. You guys have worked it out, and he's not hurt by the fact that you're like, get out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What about your website? Where's the best place for people to go to learn more about you? Charisma on Camera? Is that where?
If you want to really get skills for on-camera work specifically, Charisma on Camera is still a good place to go. Just like you'd normally spell it, charismaoncamera.com.
We'll add the link.
Yep. Yep. And for me, I mean, if you have an organization or something that you want me to come and share this, because I do go into companies and corporations primarily and work with teams and kind of build this relationship skill and this owning of everything that you are to help even sales teams get to viable sooner. So that is sandradeerobinson.com. So if you want to check out some of the acting reels and things and find a little bit more about me, that's really what that's all about. So it's myname.com. But for training, yeah, Charisma on Camera. You can go to my YouTube channel for Charisma on Camera. There's a lot of tip videos on there, so you can get started there or get started with the book, which you can find on Amazon or on charismaoncamera.com. So lots of ways to get started right now.
Awesome. So I know that we have some people here live, but a lot of people watch the replays of this just because they are during the day. Yeah. And there are several hundred people. So this is what I'm going to do. The first 5 people to send me an email and tell me that they watched this and they would like a copy of Sandra's book, I will send you a copy of her book.
Nice.
Yeah, I know you need to get to the end of the training or the end of the webinar to get that. So first 5 people to reach out, I will buy and ship you a copy of Sandra's book.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's so good to see you. And you are just filled with so many great ideas. It makes me want to fly you out here and spend a day shooting with me because you're so good.
That'd be fun. Let's do it.
Yeah, you can watch some of those sunsets with me.
Oh my gosh. Love the pictures that you post. Love it. And especially, you know what? Make sure you post one today. It's Earth Day. So it's one of my favorite days of the year. So I'm constantly trying to encourage people to enjoy the fact that, God paints a picture for us every sunrise and sunset. So take a breath and enjoy it. It'll make you happier. And happy people are charismatic.
Do you know the last 2 mornings, Sandra, when I have gone outside with the dogs around, I don't know, 6, just after 6 in the morning here, Atlantic time, I have seen a moon set. The moon is literally setting over the water, and it's like this great big juicy moon, and it's just beautiful. So I've got the sunrise on one side and the moon setting on the other, and it's awesome. And it's beautiful here today. It's almost like it's the very first day. All these emails are coming in now. I want Sandra's book. I want Sandra's book. There were no questions on chat. I was like, is anybody still with us? And now I'm getting all these emails.
Questions, right? Well, yeah. You're really good at asking questions. So things were getting answered maybe.
Yes, yes. So anyways, I promise to take a picture because I think we'll have a really juicy sunset tonight. I'll tag you.
I know it's so hard to take pictures of the moon, but it is a full moon. That's why it looks so amazing. And I've tried endlessly. I think you'd have to have a really good lens.
You were talking about a lens for your phone for videos. You can get a lens specifically for taking solar pictures.
Oh, cool.
I know. I want one. I need one for where we live because the sunsets are just, and the thing is I look at the picture on my phone and I look at the sky and it just doesn't look as good.
I know.
Yeah, it's 10 times better in person. So yeah. You're always welcome. If you want to come out and see one live, come play. Love to spend a day with you.
Awesome.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here and have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you for all your brilliant insights. I am going to go away and do my homework with the big secret you gave us. I love that secret tip to write down all the things you're really good at and then attach stories because as you were saying that, I'm starting to think about myself and the things that I'm good at, and then I'm thinking what story ties to that, and all of a sudden I'm seeing all these stories that I've never told. So that was awesome.
You just harvest those stories like you would harvest fruit in your garden, and then you just keep them until you know that they're right and they're ready.
Yeah.
So whether you share them with an audience of 1 or an audience of thousands.
Yeah. And the beautiful thing about storytelling is you don't have to memorize anything.
No, because you lived it.
That's right. It's the truth. And, you know, it's easy to remember because you did it. So, all right. Thank you, Sandra. You are awesome. I really appreciate it. And peace, love, and happiness to you. Thank you, everyone, for watching this interview with Sandra. It was a real special treat to have such a professional with such a big heart here today. So thank you.
Thank you. Bye, guys.